Hey everyone, what's up? Yeah, it's about 3:12 Pacific time. It is Monday, the November 6th, and yes, I am off. I didn't get off work. I am off today. But I thought I'd come on here, and as you see the title below, I want to talk more on Nickelodeon's new uh, series coming out next year, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I said what I now everything now I kind of said what I had to a little bit in the audio video that I did. But I thought I'd discuss more about the potential we could have here with this series. You see, there is potential here with this series. There's no doubt about that. There's potential. Like some of the things I mentioned in the audio video, can be really intriguing. Now, I know what was his name, Duo Dreamer. I think that's his name, something like that. Duo Dreamer videos. He discussed it. Andre Meadows, Black Nerd Comedy, have discussed it. I'm kind of surprised Channel Awesome hasn't discussed it yet, or you know, I haven't. I'm not. I'm kind of surprised that Walter at Channel Awesome hasn't discussed it, or Doug Walker hasn't. I'm kind of surprised that James Wolfe of Angry Video Game Nerd fame hasn't discussed it, or Linkara. But when I look um, at the series, or when I look at it, I should say, when I look at the premise, when we all look at the premise, actually, when we look at the premise, if you will. In fact, when we all look at it, um, hold on. But like I said, when we all look at it, like I said, when we all look at the premise or read about it, it does sound very strange. It does sound very different than what we're used to with TMNT. But I think what Duo Dreamer and Andre, and I'm sure others will point out, is certain things changing about certain things being changed around for a new TMNT series or a new incarnation of them. That's nothing really new. It's nothing really new. I mean, they point out something that pretty much I became aware of when I started reading the comics, started reading more into TMNT, and especially when the 2K series came out. You know, I started reading about how Baxter Stockman was originally African American, and for the recent CGI series and the 2K series, they kept true to that. True, in the 2K series, basically they kind of physically screwed him up, if you will. Physically they screwed him up a bit. Basically having him be reduced to nothing but an eyeball with a brain attached to it. Um, but yeah, at least they kind of kept that true again. They kind of went back to those roots. But one of the things I'm sure people question about, and I discussed this as well, at least I tried to discuss it as best I can um, in the audio video, and I know Andre touched upon this, Duo Dreamers touched upon this, I'm sure everybody else is going to touch upon this to talk about it. Um, Basically, the fact that April O'Neil is her ethic, if you will, her race is going to be changed over. She's going to be voiced by an African American actress, a voice actress, and thus, because of that, I don't know if this is because of the reason or just something they wanted to try, but April is going to become African American. Now, there is a little bit of tidbit I did try to touch upon, and I think Andre touched upon this, and I think Duo Dreamer probably touched upon this. Um, Basically, the tidbit is historically, April was African American to begin with. Well, at least she was tan. At least she was, basically, she wasn't white Caucasian. She wasn't Caucasian. She wasn't white and Caucasian as we have grown to know her. She actually started out as African American, or at least dark skinned, dark toned, black hair, and all that. So she started off in some sense in that manner. So for them to take her back to those roots, if you will, and make her in this upcoming incarnation African American, um, it's kind of a unique change, and I'm one that welcomes it. You know, I mean, now I know you're thinking, well, Brian, you weren't too fond on April being a teenager. Here's the thing, I wasn't too fond of her being a teenager and everything. Yes, I did get an action figure of her as a teenager. Don't get me wrong about that. But the thing is, the April O'Neil I'm more used to, I don't know if you can see it, is up there. That's the April O'Neil I'm used to. I'm not used to, like, let me try to get her down without knocking stuff down. She's kind of opened up a little bit because I did a review on her, but this is the April O'Neil somewhat that I'm used to. I grew up on. This was the April O'Neil. All right? This is the April O'Neil. True, the coloring on, true, the orange is replacing the white on there, but you kind of get the idea. This was the April I grew up on. So, well, yeah. But like I said, that's the April I grew up on. And for me to see them take her from being this adult character, this grown-up adult character that she was, to kind of taking her back to her roots in 2K, making her sort of a scientific brain, if you will, or kind of engineer scientific, basically making her who she is, basically a brainiac in a sense, a la like Donatello, but more what's the word? More intuitive, more ingenuic, if you will. Basically, she knew how to fix things. She basically had it. Basically, I appreciated and respected the fact that they took her back to her scientific roots, where she originally didn't start out as a reporter. She started out as a scientist, more importantly, an assistant to Baxter Stockman, until she saw what he was truly about, or what his true intentions were. Sorry for the lag there. But yeah, I respect that they took her back to those roots, and I respected the fact because and I respected that more, and I respected that, more so than I think anybody could appreciate, because not only did it take her back to her roots, in a sense, when the comic really started to get rolling, when the franchise really started to get rolling, in '84 and '85 and all that, but they kept her as an adult. They didn't change her character, the physical appearance of her character, or anything. In fact, one thing that I was always used to when I used to watch the original 87 7 to 96 series was not once, not twice, but 4 times April got temporarily mutated. First time was in season 2 in the episode Catwoman from Channel 6. Second time, I think, is when she got temporarily turned into either a fish woman or an insect queen or something like that. And, well, it may have been 3 times. I can't remember. I thought it was 4, actually, but it was actually, I think, 3. I think it was 3 times that Like I said, she became a Catwoman and the Catwoman from Channel 6, an insect queen and a fish woman. And I think there was something else that I mentioned. I think there was something else. I can't really think of it right now. I have to go back and listen to the audio. Matter of fact, I think I have the audio right here. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, but basically, those are the ones I know of, and I know I spoke of something else. I'm trying to find. Well, here we go. Okay, it was only three, not four, because the fourth one that I was actually thinking about took place in the 2K series, like I said there. And but yeah, but yeah, that was the one thing I respected. I respected about it. I respected about the 2K series is they kept her as an adult, and but they kind of went back to her original date, one of her original debuts, where she was basically a scientist and assistant to Baxter Stockman. But like I said, growing up with the April from the '87 to '96 series, I was used to her always getting into any kind of trouble, kind of going against her friends' wishes and all that to try to get a scoop, try to get a story, and try to get people to see that the turtles aren't the bad guys, but they're the good guys. And there were several occasions where she would get mutated. Like I said, she would get mutated into a cat, an insect woman, an insect queen, a fish woman. And when I look at this, and even in the 2K series, like I said, I respect the fact that they kept her, they kept her at her roots and all that, or one of her original roots, that is, as being a scientist, having a scientific mind to help out the turtles and all that. Um, basically being very creative and ingenuitive when need to be, as well as scientific, because we do see her in the later part of the series helping out Donatello at times. Um, but one thing they did, but here's the thing: I mentioned the mutations there from the original. I was kind of surprised that they held off at least into the last season to kind of give us somewhat of a mutation or transformation, um, in some shape or form, and that was in Back to the Sewers. And that's when she became I think, yin yang like monster. She became a yin yang like monster or something like that. Let me see if I got the episode right here. The Engagement Ring, that's what it's called. It was the episode Engagement. It was the fourth episode of season 7 in 2009, aired on October 4th, 2008, which is about 9 years ago. And basically she gets turned into a yin yang like monster. And what I mean by yin yang like monster is, if you pay attention to the original series, she always stays about the same size. She always stays the same size when she got turned into a cat woman or a tiger woman. Same size when she became a fish woman, and the same size when she became an insect queen, just with the addition of wings and a few extra insect legs and body, if you will. Um, but yeah, she was always remaining the same size. Here in this episode, she ended up turning into a yin yang like monster because the ring she got possessed a yin yang like spirit, evil spirit inside, and she became this yin yang like monster that towards the end took took control of her completely and basically took over her body. Basically, it grew out of her and she just grew enlarged and became this yin yang like monster or something like that. And I think they were planning on an action figure, not only action figure to come out based on that. I think they did. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that was the only time in the 2K series that they did that. So when I so like I said in the audio, when I read about the synopsis for April, and then Andre pointed this out a little bit, and I don't know if Duo Dreamer pointed this out, but the it says that she is street smart, street savvy. She uses that to help the turtle. She's going to use that to help the turtles get around, get to know the areas. But at the same time, she's always eager to join the fun. She's always ready to join the fun. And when I hear them say fun, I'm like, shouldn't it say fray instead of fun? But then that kind of tells me this is going to be an April that is street savvy, street smart, but it's very mischiefy. Like, kind of encompasses a little bit of the April of the 80s. Like, there might be a part where they say stay behind, we don't want to get you in danger. She'll act like she will, and then she'll follow and then get in danger, stuff like that. And so I look at the fact that we could be getting a very mischiefy April, street smart, street savvy April, and what's being dubbed as a more comedic, action-oriented show. In other words, basically, it's supposed to have emphasis on both the action and more so. Basically, I don't know how they're going to present it, but it's supposed to have an overall overemphasis. Well, not overemphasis, but it's supposed to have a lot of focus on the comedic aspect of the series as well as the action. In other words, it's supposed to be more comedic in tone than what we had with the 2K series, than what we had somewhat with the Nickelodeon recent series. So it's supposed to be more of that comedic blend. And this is where I see the whole change of April being not just African American, but her having this more street savvy, street smart side to her, but having a very what sounds like mischiefy side as well. Because like I mentioned, and you heard it on here a little bit, what I mentioned in the audio video is I see this April being put into similar situations that the 1980s to 1996 April was put in. And that is, I see her being mutated on several occasions, temporarily though. Maybe they might carry it over for an episode or two, but I see her being mutated on several occasions, only temporarily. Um, and what I mean by being mutated temporarily is just like like I said, in the original 80s show, she gets she gets mutated into a different kind of animal, a creature. Heck, I even, knowing Nickelodeon and knowing this is supposed to be more comedic based, that this upcoming version is supposed to be more comedic based than the others, I wouldn't put it past Nickelodeon to do an episode where April gets turned into some kind of a slime girl or mutated into some kind of slime girl, goo girl that can melt into a puddle, shapeshift into whatever she wants or whoever she wants, slip through cracks, acts through doors and all that, and just base an episode around that maybe. And maybe, if April is going to be street smart, street savvy, if not mischiefy, have April, get a little fun out of this temporal temporary mutation she's gone through. Have her have fun by, like I say, melting down into a puddle and going with the flow, if you will. Like she could merge with other liquids, and you couldn't tell the difference with or not. And I could see them doing that. I could see them having fun with that, to where if they were to do an episode like that, and April had that ability to where one of the things she could do is melt into a puddle and kind of merge with other liquids, I could see her being mischiefy around the turtles, by, like let's say with Leon, like let's say with Donatello, he's probably doing something scientific, and then he goes to looks like a vat of liquid he wants to use, and all of a sudden these two big eyes just pop out of the side of the liquid, and then you see April rise out of it after she startled it. Kind of joking around, saying she's having that, kind of mentioning that even though this is temporary, she's having some fun with it. So I could see them doing that as a mutation with her. Again, like I said in the audio, I could see them doing a callback to the original '80s series with her being mutated into a cat tiger-like woman, maybe a fish woman, an insect queen. I could see them do that. I could see them doing callbacks to even having her turn into a yin yang like monster from the 2K series. I could see all that being brought in with this incarnation. But what I do see probably them doing, if they go in these directions of mutating April or transforming her into different creatures and stuff, is I can see them maybe, even though the show's supposed to be more comedic in tone, you can tell it's going to. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the majority of it, because, like I said in the audio video, I think it's going to slowly progress to where it's going to get more serious at times. And hold on for a sec. Well, like I said, I could see where it could get more serious at times, as the show progresses, depending on how long the series. Sorry for the lag there. Sorry for the lag again. Depending on how long the series goes, I could see it evolving from being comedic and becoming more serious. So I think if they decide to do mutations and transformations temporarily with April, I can see them as the show progresses and maybe becomes more serious at times, where they can do a story arc where she slowly where she gets mutated into, let's say, a slime creature or a cat creature or whatever, and slowly the thought process of what she's become starts to take over her mentally. Like they could do an arc to where she becomes, like I say, a blob of slime-like creature, and slowly her mentality starts to focus on turning all those people around her into slime-like creatures as well, and having a slime-like world or environment. I could see them doing that if the series progresses into something more serious as it continues its run on Nickelodeon and Nicktoons. But again, it all depends on how many seasons it's going to get. Knowing Nickelodeon, though, it's going to give it probably a couple of seasons. They saw the success that the CGI version of the Turtles got, despite the changes they went through there. So I won't be surprised they do the same thing with the Rise of the Ninja Turtles, that they basically give it a season, a couple of seasons, and maybe one of those seasons you have this happen with April. And it doesn't have to be, being a slime creature or anything. It could be her mutating into a cat woman, like I say, being a callback to the original series, or to the original '80s, '90s series. And you can slowly have that cat mentality take over her, where she wants to turn the whole world into cat people or something. You kind of get the idea. So, with April, I see a more, and I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about her because this is somewhat of a big deal. But with April being described as being street smart, street savvy, and always willing to join the fun, and this being more comedic based, and this starting out is supposed, in this series, this incarnation of the TMNT is supposed to be more comedic based at times. Like I said, it sounds like we're going to get a very mischiefy April, and her going through these kind of situations. Definitely, in my opinion, excuse me there, but definitely in my opinion, um, is in tone with what they want to present, is in tone with the mischiefy side of April that we may get, and is in tone with the comedic part. So I could see that. I can see them, if they want to stay comedic, that's fine. I can see them playing up some of these mutations for laughs. Like I mentioned earlier with April. April going through a mutation that turns into a slime-like creature, or goo-like creature, and her being able to shapeshift, melt, do all this kind of stuff, even merge with other liquids. She can have fun with that. But like I said, if they decide to grow the series out of being comedic and start being more serious, like they did with the CGI series, because let's be honest, that started out a little comedic, but then all of a sudden it evolved into being more serious and more action and dramatic at times. So when when I look at this series, they may keep it comedic maybe for a season or two, but I see it definitely growing into something more down the line, more serious, more serious and more mature. And I could see them, for comedic wise, doing a few transformations for the heck of it, for the fun of it, to allow April to have some comedic fun with them. But I can also see as time progresses, if she does more mutations, if they get them mutated more, I could see it being played out in the story arc to where maybe the mentality of the mutation starts to slowly take her over, and the Turtles have to find a way to get her back to normal before she's completely taken over by the mutation. Asian's mentality. So, um, so yeah, as far as April goes, and again, like I know, and like I said, I know I've spent a lot of time talking about her. I think we're going to get a very interesting version of April here, and a very mischievy side that's going to lend itself very well to the comedic nature the show wants to go for. And if she gets mutated, I can see that mischievy side coming out doing her mutations. Asians that definitely will lend itself to the comedic nature of the show. As far as the Turtles themselves go, like I said, and Andre said this, and Duo Dreamers said this, and anybody else that's talked about this has said it. Um, you have Raphael as the oldest, if not physically the biggest of the Turtles, and he's the leader in this incarnation. Well, Leonardo's kind of like laid back and cool and relaxed. Donatello's still the brainiac, and Michelangelo's still somewhat of himself, but has this artistic side to him now. So one thing a lot of people are questioning is why is Raphael the leader? Why is not Leonardo? Because we're always used in every incarnation, ever since the beginning, we're always used to Leonardo being the leader. And I think what I said in my audio video, I'm gonna definitely stick by here, because it's the same thing that Andre is stuck by, same thing Duo Dreamers is stuck by, and I'm sure everybody else that's talking about the series is stuck by. And that is the fact that I think Raphael being the leader, even though he's going to be the oldest and physically the biggest, I think Raphael being the leader is going to be a temporary deal. Because even though this is supposed to have a more comedic nature, what I see here, um, and again, this goes back to when I was talking about April, how I feel the series is going to progress and evolve from being in its comedic nature. It's going to evolve from that to being more serious, if not a little dark and dramatic and mature. That I believe Raphael is going to slowly go from being the leader to being like a second in command, because I can see Leonardo being built up. I can see them doing a story arc. I don't know if it'll be done in the first season or if they do a couple more seasons, to where Leonardo is going to be built up to be the leader, be like the one that, even though he's laid back, cool, and relaxed, that is more dependable, more responsible than Raphael can be as leader. And one of the reasons that would lead to this maybe is because of Raphael having some anger issues. And if that plays into the series, which it probably should, then I can definitely see them doing a little bit of a story arc to where Splinter warns Raphael that if he doesn't control his temper, because he's going to risk the safety of his brothers, of his team, and his allies and friends, that if he doesn't control his temper and try to act like a true leader, that he's going to consider somebody else to take over. Like he'll consider one of his brothers, one of Raphael's brothers, to take over as leader. So I think that's what's going to arguably play into the whole possibility that Leonardo is going to end up being the leader down the line if they go in that direction, which I think they will, because I think Nickelodeon and I think the people behind the series would be foolish not to do that. I think they'd be foolish not to do that. So to me, I think the whole Raphael being the oldest and physically the biggest out of the turtles and being the leader, I think the leader part and portion is only going to be temporary. And if the series goes on for a couple of seasons or several seasons, which I believe it will, what TMNT series has not, except for Next Mutation, I can see, as the first season ends, I can see Leonardo, growing into being the leader. And as the second season comes around, I could see him start to become leader uh, after Raphael. I could see that happening. I really can. Like I said, I could see them, even though it's supposed to have a comedic nature and tone. I can see them doing somewhat of a mature, dramatic, serious story with a bit of comedicness in there, of Leonardo slowly becoming the leader and Raphael slowly becoming like a second in command because he can't control his anger, and his anger is always putting himself, his brothers, and his allies, his friends, in danger. So I'm guessing if they go in that direction, like I said, I think they're going to do a story arc where Splinter's going to say, "Hey, you need to control your temper because you're putting everybody in at risk and in danger. And if you don't, I'm going to have to pick one of your other brothers to take over as leader." So I can see that happening. And I think anybody watching this live would agree with that. Um, as far as what else could happen in the series, one thing that Duo Dreamer mentioned is we don't know about Shredder. We haven't heard anything about Shredder, but you have to have Shredder. With the exception of Next Mutation, which had Shredder at the beginning and somewhat towards the end, if you will, you got to have Shredder in this series. You got to have him in some incarnation. You want to go the whole 2K route, where it's revealed that Shredder was actually an Utron, a brain from an alien brain from another planet. If you want to go in that direction, fine. I have no problem with that. You want to go with him being, you know, you want him to go from being what he was in both the 2K in the recent Nickelodeon series and the original series, and that's basically be Hamato Oshi turned mutated into a rat. You want to go in that direction, fine. You want to go back to the Mirage Studio version that we got in the 2K series, as well as in the live action 90s movie, where he was a rat but got mutated into who he is? I have no problem. You want to come up with a different solution, different incarnation that we don't expect? That's fine with me too. I really don't have a problem. You know, if you want to do that with Splinter, but we'll just have to wait and see what they do. But like I said, I think what's going to happen, honestly, when it comes to Leonardo Raphael's roles, they're going to be reversed. It's just going to take time, and Splinter is going to be the one that makes that happen. But like I said, we got to have Shredder in some incarnation, depending on how they do it. Splinter, of course, is going to be there, but what kind of Splinter are we going to get? What origin are you going to give him? But the other things we need to see in there is their interpretation of Casey Jones. We need to see their interpretation of characters that we've seen throughout the entire franchise. Because one thing I will give the Nickelodeon series credit is they did callbacks, they did acknowledgments, they did their own interpretations of characters that have uh, become a staple of the TMNT franchise. We wanted to see Usasi Yojimbo. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. In the Nickelodeon series, and we finally got that. We wanted to see Mona Lisa in the series. We finally got that. Even though she was a very recent character over the past decade or several years, we got Aeroplex. There were times we wanted Aeroplex in the series. We got that. We want Bebop and Rocksteady. We got that. I think we got Toga and Razar. We got that. But to me, if they're going to do more of the series down the line. If they're gonna do more of this series with several seasons thrust upon it, then they definitely have to bring in other characters. I know the first season's going to be more like introductory, and maybe you'll bring in a few characters there. But I think honestly, you got to bring back and bring in some characters that to me, they got to take a page off the recent Nickelodeon series, and they got to bring in characters from all over the franchise. You know, people were happy when they got Mona Lisa. Guess what? Bring Mona Lisa back. But you know what? Here's what you do. You don't make Mona Lisa an alien salamander. No. You're gonna keep us a mutated, keep us a salamander, fine. But to me, keep the origin we got in the original '80s series, the original '80s '90s series. Keep that origin, because that works. That would work. Another thing I think, as far as female characters go, you got to bring in Karai. But I don't know how you will interpret her. Is she going to be a Karai that gets mutated later on? Is she going to be a Karai that gets mutated later on um, into another creature like she was in the recent series? Or are you going to keep her the way she is? We'll just have to find out. But you got to bring Karai in. You got to do that. Um, One character I would like to see them bring in, and I was hoping they would bring in. I was hoping they would bring in to the recent series, but hopefully they can work something out with Steve Murphy and Dan Allen, and that's bringing in Jarrah. They gotta bring Ninjara in because to me, this interpretation would be the perfect place, the perfect um, incarnation of the Turtles to insert her in. I think she would have. I think her being in her being put into this incarnation is a perfect fit for her. So if you're not going to bring in Mona Lisa, bring in Ninjara, bring her in again because to me would definitely be a perfect place for her. You got mutant animals. We got the mutant animals somewhat in the Nickelodeon series, but to me, you got to bring in the mutant animals that we knew about in the Archie series. You got to bring those guys in. And you got to play them up for the comedic worth. You got to do that. And that includes Mondo Gecko, Man Ray, you name it. You got to bring them in. You got to bring those characters in. Um, who else? Aeroplex, you want to bring her in again? Fine, go ahead. I have no problem with that. I would like to see her again. Um, what else? What else? Oh, that time girl. I can't think of her name. Is it Tempest or whatever her name was? Bring her in. I would like to see her come in. Bring her in. That would be so cool to see that character. But yeah, I would like to see those. Heck, story arc wise, there's a potential of story arcs they could work with. I would like to see them adapt some of the Archie comic ones. That'd be good. I would like to see that. I mean, one I would like to see. One I would like to see. Um, what one was it? The Black Hole Saga. That one. I would like to see that. They could do Terra Acid if they want to. I want to see Black Hole Saga. Honestly, I would like to see that. I would like to see their interpretation of Terra Acid, maybe. But I'd like to see Black Hole Trilogy. I would love to see their interpretation on that. I want to see what they do with City at War. That would be good. Um, let's see what else do we. Oh, you definitely got to do. To me, I think what they really need to do is take a page from the 2K series and thrust the turtles into different alternate realities. They were somewhat doing that with the Tales of the TMNT here, but they got to do this with this series. They got to thrust them into different realities, just like the 2K series did. And to me, that would be awesome. That would be awesome in a huge way. That would be just a thrill. Oh, they got to do the Dragon Saga. They got to do that. I want to see them do that. Um, there's a lot of things I would like to see. There's too many to name. But yeah, there's just a bunch of things I would like to see. I want to see what their interpretation of Dimension X will be if they bring that in. I would like to see what their interpretation of Krang, if he doesn't turn out to, if they bring him in, unless they do the old Ultron thing. So I would like to see a lot of that. I'd like to see a lot of this stuff happen. Um, Heck, I'd like to see them cross over with some other properties besides their own. Yeah, keep the whole crossing over to different dimensions and meeting different versions of themselves or encountering different versions of themselves. Go ahead and keep that. I have no problem with that. Um, but I think we need to have crossovers. And I think the most likely one that got hinted at in the 2K series, Wild West Cowboys and Moo Mesa. You got to do that one. You got to bring those guys in. I would like to see how they interpret that. Heck, I'd like to see them work something out with DC maybe and try to bring Batman or the Batman into the equation, or work something out with Sony and they can bring in the Ghostbusters. And we see IDW doing it. Why not do it for this show? And I think it would work here. I really do. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of things I would like to see. Again, I would like to. One thing I like to see is their interpretation of Casey Jones. How are they going to interpret this guy? They bring him in. That's going to be the intriguing thing. Another character I'd like to see make a comeback. She was in the 2K series. I would like to see Angel. I'd like to see her come back, see what they do there with her. I'd like to see the Purple Dragons come back. Foot Soldiers, want to see how they interpret those guys. Just a lot of things. A lot of things and characters and story arcs I would like to see happen in this new incarnation that's supposed to have more of a comedic tone at first. Comedic tone at first, but I truly believe that even though the comedic nature is going to be its foundation, they're going to slowly grow from that into being more dramatic, dark, and serious, if not mature, as the seasons that they will probably get progress and happen. Because fans are going to probably, I think Nickelodeon, they're not dumb. I think the people behind this know that fans are going to expect that. So don't be surprised if season by season, if the show is successful, which I don't see no reason why it shouldn't be. And don't be surprised that as you get more seasons, that the series becomes more serious and dark and mature, and if not dramatic. Look at the recent Nickelodeon series and tell me that can happen. So overall, overall, I definitely see the series being a success. I see it being a success. Again, I know a lot of people until we see the character designs, the concept art, and all that. And even after we see that, I'm still going to question changes like why is April African American and not white and Caucasian like she should be? Why is Raphael tall and why is Raphael taller than his brothers and the oldest, and why is he the leader? I know people are going to still question that, but again, there's reasons for it. You just got to me being a longtime fan, you just got to really dig deep into what could be, into what just by reading off certain synopsis and all that, what you're going to probably end up getting. What you're going to probably end up getting. So, um, to me, when like I said, when I look at April's synopsis for her character, I see a very mischiefy character that that if she gets mutated and they go in that direction, we'll have a little fun with it at first, especially if they stay to the comedic tone for like the first season or so, and then gets changed back. But then as the series progresses and maybe becomes more darker and dramatic, they might focus a story arc on that to where she has to try to get to where they try to return her to normal, try to change her back before the mutations mentality takes her over. I can see just from the synopsis, my opinion, that kind of situation happening with her, especially with the fact that she's supposed to be street smart and street savvy, and that will come in handy. There's no doubt, but it's going to come in handy as well as the mischievous side that I see coming out as well. And again, with the whole Raphael Leonardo thing, I think temporarily, I think Raphael being leader is temporary, and I think again going back to the writers and creators of the series or this incarnation, they know that. Sorry for the lag there. They know that, so I definitely see them playing into a story arc either at the end of the first season and into the second season, to where Raphael has to learn to control his temper, his anger, because that's putting his brothers and his friends in danger. And that if he doesn't, then Splinter's going to choose someone else, most likely Leonardo, to take over as leader. So, so yeah, as far as like certain changes go, yeah, a lot of people are not going to like them at first, but I think certain changes are just going to be temporary. Certain changes may turn out to be something good. We'll just have to wait and see. But overall, it sounds like it's going to be. It sounds like when it comes out next year, it's going to be good. It's going to be a huge hit. It's going to be a huge hit for Nickelodeon. And again, I'm not going to be surprised if it gets renewed for more seasons. So look out for that. Maybe look out for an announcement on that sooner than you think. But yeah, I expect them to have many seasons with the show, and hopefully they bring in some characters that they brought in the 2K series, but change up their origins, like Mona Lisa, bring her in, but instead of giving her the origin or whatever you had in the recent series, have Mona Lisa have more of that. Have Mona Lisa have more of that origin that she had in the 80s, 90s series. I think that suits her better. Um, bring in Yusashi Yojimbo. Bring in. Hopefully they bring him back. They bring back the mute. Hopefully they bring back the mutant animals. Karai, I definitely know they got to bring her back. Shredder, definitely. Bebop, Rocksteady. Hopefully they bring back all the characters that were used to, that they brought back in different incarnations, interpretations with the last series, but kind of but give them different origins and takes, maybe that are callbacks to other incarnations of the Ninja Turtles. Like I'd like to see them bring in Jarrah if they can work something out there. I'd like to see them bring in Illiplex again. That'd be great too. That Time Girl, I think her name is Tempest or whatever her name is, bring her back. Just a lot of things. And story arc wise, like I said, I would like to see their interpretation of City of War. I would like to see maybe them bring in the Archie Comics Black Hole trilogy from the run with the Ninja Turtles. I'd like to see a lot of this stuff occur. So hopefully we get some of the things we're hoping for, and which is but and here's to hope. Here's to hoping the people behind the series give us a good series in the end. But we'll just have to wait and see what occurs. But again, like I said, I'm not gonna. But again, don't expect this series to be just one season. Expect it to have several seasons, because it's Ninja Turtles, it's Nickelodeon. I think Nickelodeon's not dumb, and I think they know they got a hit on their hands. So overall, that's all I can say in this kind of like live, more discussion on Nickelodeon's Rise of the TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Thank you all for watching live. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching post live. After it's been uploaded and everything. Let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. And I'm out.